Well, good morning again. Here we are, another episode of NFL Matchup. We are done with week 3. And boy, a lot of times that we learn a lot of stuff in week 3. Very different from week 1. Jed, Jimmy, welcome.
Hey, good morning.
The player of the week. We all probably could agree Andy Dalton was the player of the week. Boy, did he do well for the Carolina Panthers. And Chuba Hubbard and did really well. Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen before he went out with the hamstring issue.
Hey, Juwan Jennings too, crazy day,
Yeah.
and then also Sam Darnold. I mean, you can't So anyway, there's a lot to go around.
Yeah. Juwan Jennings. You thought he would be good, but I actually thought Brandon Ayuk would do well. But wow, Juwan Jennings. I spent a lot of money in terms of picking him up on waivers this week.
Okay, I was so pissed off because waivers clear at 12 o'clock here, right? So that's 2 o'clock your time. I woke up because I bidded $35 so I can get Juwan Jennings. And I said, I should be fine. I should have gone after 50 because Tommy put in $40 for Juwan Jennings. Yeah. And I was like, what the? I was so pissed. I was so upset this morning.
Because I was thinking, I said, I bet you there will be somebody who puts in 30. They say, oh, wow, 35. I bet you 40. No one's going to go to 40. Let me try to go to 40 and beat everyone.
Yeah, that was me. I thought, because I was like, the most somebody's going to put up is like 25, because we've got some friends who are pretty cheap. No one's going to go that high, right? And so I was like, okay, 35, because I was like, I changed it from 50 to 35. And I need a receiver too, because all my receivers have been so bad, or their quarterback is out, or they've been injured. And so I was so upset that I didn't get Juwan Jennings.
Yeah. And my argument, Jed, is, look, I don't use my waiver money anyways, like the entire thing. And how often does a guy sitting there who has the potential to do so well just sit there in the waiver? So I said, might as well spend it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. So I think you have to me, the way you think of your waiver wire budget is in terms of people. So I want to use my full budget on, let's say, 2 people or 3 people over the course of the season. So if you're thinking 3, that's about $35. If it's 2, it's $50. But you got to go all in. Like I got Jordan Mason. You guys know, like that was a great pickup. But like I think you just have to think that way. You can't think cheap. You can't think like $3, $5, $10. You just got to go all in.
The only reason why it kept me from using the full amount or a big chunk, because I was like, oh, it's week 4.
Yes.
You still got Brandon Ayuk out there. You don't know when Deebo Samuel's out there. But Juwan Jennings could potentially emerge as a top receiver for them. But we'll see. But I still think that he'll actually be pretty good.
Oh, I do wonder if the San Francisco 49ers are regretting giving all that money to Brandon Ayuk versus just trading him for more draft cap. Who would have thought Juwan Jennings would be so good?
Yeah. Okay, Tom, going back though for that league, because I was looking at it, I need some wide receivers. I got Waddle, I had Puka Nacua, I got Michael Pittman. My receivers stink, and I got Sam Laporta as the tight end, and he has not done anything. So my receivers have really been bad.
Hey, Sam Laporta can't be Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews got a 0 last week. I've been dying, and so that was the big thing. I've been holding on to him. He's been the one guy that's like hurting me a lot. But
even Isaiah Likely on that team, you would think if Mark Andrews wasn't doing well, Isaiah Likely would go off. But Isaiah Likely, he had 2 receptions last week, so I don't know what's going on with the tight ends over there.
Well, I would just wait, though. Again, it's like we said, this is week 4, and I do think you have to play. So I'm in statistics and data analytics. One of the things we love to say is regression to the mean. And like that, what that means is you got to remember things will get back to their averages. And so I think Mark Andrews, for example, I'm sticking with them. I'm not bailing yet. I think week 6 is about the time where you may want to bail on a player. If you've been waiting and they still haven't really produced, now you can bail. I still think week 4, you're about a quarter of the way through the season. I think it's too early.
I don't know.
Well, but the biggest, I think with Mark Andrews, I want to give him some more time because he had a bad car accident during the off season. And so they didn't know how well he would do, all of that stuff. He may still be recovering, so give it a couple weeks. Which, by the way, on our keeper league, right, the one that the 3 of us play in, Noah Chung is 3-0. Remember, he was the only one who didn't show up and had auto draft. He's 3-0.
Yeah.
Hey, the league I'm paying attention to is our $1,000 league, though. I mean, yes, our keeper league is important, but our $1,000 league, that is a really competitive league, and so you have to be really on top of your game there. And we should shout out the team who's in first. I know I'm in fourth. I was just going to take a look at who's in first there.
Let's see the first
Yeah,
team. Oh, it's my college friend Isaac Zerker. He's 3-0.
yeah. My only
was
problem with Jed with that one is Garrett Wilson on my team has been terrible. And then from that point, Javante Williams has been terrible. Kenneth Walker has been out. All of that stuff. It has not been a good team for me.
no.
Hey, if you want to trade Garrett Wilson, I got J.K. Dobbins sitting here. I know you like him.
Yeah.
I do enjoy J.K. Dobbins.
Isaac called me on Sunday because he was driving back to the University of Illinois, and he was so excited because he picked up Jawan Jennings, and he was trying to decide between Jawan Jennings and I think it was like Adam Thielen or somebody else. So he decided to play him, and he went off. And I told him, I was like, "That's a good pickup." But you're right, that waiver wire, there's nothing on that waiver wire. I'm just looking around all the time for it.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, which league are you talking about? Our Chicago league or the Keeper League?
Our Chicago League.
Oh, okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
because you've got some decent wide receivers on your bench. You got McLaren on your bench. You got Brian Thomas on your bench.
Yeah.
I just don't want your Najee Harris because Tommy keeps trying to get me to take out his Najee Harris.
I'm still regretting. It's one of those things you can't regret with trades. But literally, a lot of times I traded Alvin Kamara in week 1 on a high note. I said, Alvin Kamara can't be this good. He gets injured all the time. And I traded him high, thinking I would get Brian Thomas, Najee Harris, some defensive players, and it's come back to bite me.
Mm-hmm. Do you still think that Brian Thomas is going to be? I mean, Jacksonville did not look good the other day on Monday night.
There's no one good on Jacksonville. That's the only reason I picked up Brian Thomas, because I think he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver.
You would think that team would be a lot better, right? Because they got Lawrence, they got ETN, Christian Kirk. They actually got some decent players on that team.
You know who I've been trying to hunt for? Brandon Aubrey. I've been trying to see if anyone would trade me Brandon Aubrey.
No, I don't think they'll give up a kicker.
Yeah, the kicker, 65 yards. I mean, he's guaranteed. He's the highest scorer in Dallas.
Yeah, that was amazing. If you guys saw that kick, I mean, it looked like it could still go. So that guy is really impressive. No, I'm not a fan of Jacksonville, but also the Kamara trade, Tommy, that you're regretting. I still am not sold on New Orleans, and so I personally don't necessarily think it's a bad trade. Yes, right now, but again, you have to wait and see how the rest of the season plays out. You just don't know.
The only thing I would say about some of these older running backs who have been doing so well, how will they live out during the entire season? That's the biggest concern. Look at the Derrick Henrys, the Alvin Kamaras, all that stuff. Will they survive a 17-game season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derrick Henry, another shout out potential for his week. I mean, he had a great week, 150 some yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy was insane.
25 fantasy points. Like, who knew, right? I mean, I do think his production is really hurting the tight ends, because whereas in the past they would have thrown to a Likely or Andrews, now they're just running into a Derrick Henry. And so I do think that he's hurt the receivers and their potential.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you guys a quick question. Jaden Daniels scored 28 points. Patrick Mahomes has been averaging about 16 points. If someone gave you a package with Jaden Daniels, a package for Patrick Mahomes, I actually think I would make that trade.
Wow, that's impressive. I wouldn't. I do like Jaden Daniels. Well, I guess it depends on, to me, I've never been a huge proponent of spending a lot on QBs. And the main argument, you guys have heard this, the difference between the number 1 QB and the number 10 QB, there's not a huge difference relative to the other positions like running back and wide receiver. That's an interesting one, though. Daniels, I think, is going to continue. I also, you said you had Terry McLaurin on your bench. I think he's going to be fine. You just got to give him time. I think he's going to come back. So that's an interesting trade.
Oh, Terry McLaurin. I've been looking at it. I think a lot of times that connection will continue to get stronger. And so I've been trying to trade for Terry McLaurin after the Monday Night Football game.
Jed, I'll tell you this. Like, I agree with you somewhat, but it's not even Patrick Mahomes, but if you had a chance to trade for a Josh Allen to give up a Jaden Daniels, I would do that. I don't know if I would give him up for a Patrick Mahomes, but not Josh. Josh Allen. Josh Allen is so good. Even this past week, he threw 3-4 touchdowns.
Yeah, Allen definitely. I mean, far and away above, everyone else, has shown that he doesn't. Everyone was worried wouldn't have
Yeah.
Gilmore, but Diggs, but he's shown that it doesn't matter like what wide receiver he has. He's going to get his points. He's still got his legs. He can run. But again, I just think you have to pick like where are you going to spend your capital. And for me, quarterback is just not a position that like I feel like it is dominant.
The one thing I agree with you, I've been going after Jaden Daniels in a couple of our leagues. I was thinking about if the rumors were true that Washington was willing to trade for Caleb Williams and they were going to had given the Bears a big chunk of a big package. What if the Bears drafted Jaden Daniels? Wouldn't they be better off than they Caleb Williams? Unless you really do believe that it's the coach and the line that's preventing Caleb Williams from fulfilling his potential.
Yeah, that's what everyone's talking about in Chicago. Is the coach going to get fired? Basically, so they're blaming it on him and the offensive line. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I still think it's early. Daniels has looked great, but let's just see.
But if you look at the games where Daniels is playing versus Caleb Williams, Daniels is so much smoother. Like he's picking up his receivers. He's just so much smoother than Caleb Williams is right now.
Yeah, the only problem with that, as we've talked about with the line, Caleb Williams has about average 2.5 seconds to throw. And a lot of times I blame it less on the coach, but the offensive coordinator, because if Indianapolis cannot stop the run, then why are you guys not running? Why are you throwing it 52 times if they can't stop the run?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have noticed. I don't know if you want to talk about the Bears right now, but I have noticed that they've started using more Roschon Johnson this past week. And so I wonder if going forward, Roschon Johnson could potentially emerge, even if it's like a 1A to DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, he's a popular pickup, and I mean that was in Chicago when we made the trade for DeAndre. So when we made the signing for DeAndre Swift, everyone was like, "Why are we spending that money there?" Because we knew we had Roschon Johnson in the background. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I agree with you, Tommy. I do think the offensive coordinator is a serious problem. It doesn't seem like he's been attacking teams' weaknesses; that he's been trying to show our dominance in a particular area. But it's really not a good move.
Yeah, he was a former Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. And back in those days, you had Lockett, you have Metcalf, you have all those guys. And so here, look, Odunze scored 6 catches, 112 yards. Even Cole Kmet, 97 yards, 78 yards for DJ Moore. You're getting there, but at the same time, you guys scoring more points.
I did pick up Cole Kmet. For those of you who need a tight end, I picked up Cole Kmet. Yeah. If the Bears are going to throw 50 times a game, then Cole Kmet's going to get some of that. So that's something to look at.
Look, Caleb Williams threw 300-something yards. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching Rome Odunze's dad on Twitter. He keeps taking clips showing Rome Odunze being open and how Caleb Williams isn't looking for him. And so he keeps putting it on Twitter, and I think it's causing it's causing frustration on the Bears.
Yeah, I would probably say it's the same thing as the Ball family. You just do not need any of the parents getting involved in the team. It just messes everything up.
No.
Hey, going on the Indianapolis side, Jed, I'll go over to you. Is it time to bail on Richardson?
No, I've got Richardson too. No. I don't think it's time to bail. It's a little strange how things, we very hot, popular team leading into the season. They have not played up to expectations, but no, there's too much talent there. Jonathan Taylor as well. If you've got him, he's been fine, still getting a touchdown here or there. I'm holding out for both of them. I think Richardson will still end in the top 10. You just got to wait a little bit.
Jed, here's my worry, right? And I do have Richardson as my starting quarterback in 2 leagues. He's not running, when he's throwing interceptions. And so I like the running was usually the things that is giving him points, even though he was making mistakes, right? But because he's not running, he's throwing interceptions, he's not throwing TDs. I'm getting 5 points. I got 8 points last week. I do have Jordan Love coming back, so I am kind of glad I always have 2 quarterbacks that I can lean on. But I do think that he'll correct it. I just don't know when. But I don't know why he's not running either.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of Baltimore. To me, Richardson and Lamar Jackson, they have to run. They have to show that is still a threat. Like if they completely eliminate that from their game, it just helps the defensive coordinators. It doesn't mean that they have to be exclusive runners or that that's the main part of their game, but they have to show that that's a significant threat.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's what turned things around for Baltimore. If you watch the game for Baltimore, like Jackson, I mean, when Lamar is running, like they're pretty much unstoppable.
I don't know if my friend Jalen is listening to it, but he plays in the same league as my brother and I. And Jalen and I have been talking about this Jaden Daniels for Anthony Richardson trade. And then finally he decided yesterday after just Jaden Daniels game, he doesn't want to. He wants to keep Jaden Daniels. So I've been trying to sweeten the pot a little bit more.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say for anyone who's followed kind of my strategy of not taking a top 5 quarterback, you do need to have a backup, like you said, Jimmy. Like to me, picking up a Baker Mayfield or picking up Sam Darnold, someone who like you was not drafted but has done well, that's important because you have to play the matchups. Like there are going to be times where your quarterback is just not going to have a good outing because they're up against a good defense.
I mean, like you said,
my backup, Jed, is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Aaron Rodgers is a good backup. He would be that good backup.
Yeah. Hey, I want to look at a couple games as well too. Houston Texans at Minnesota Vikings. Number one, the Vikings have been outstanding. Aaron Jones, 19 carries, 102 yards. Justin Jefferson, all of that stuff. Even Naylor has been really good.
You're looking at week 3. They're playing Green Bay.
I'm looking at week 3. Okay.
Yeah, Green Bay.
No, he's saying that they had a good game.
Oh, this past week, right? Okay.
This past week.
Yeah. And then going forward, I mean, with Aaron Jones, it's a revenge game against Green Bay. So I think, he's going to play off of what happened last week, and he's going to have another good game.
Oh, I am surprised at how, like last year, Aaron Jones was just dead. He was terrible. I thought A.J. Dillon was going to take over, and here he is, resurgence of this new running back, which has been surprising to say the least.
Yeah, but that's taking away from Jacobs, right? Jacobs was in Green Bay, so it's not taking away. Yeah, Jacobs has been a little bit disappointing, but that's an interesting game. Minnesota at Green Bay, particularly if Jordan Love does come back, that does change things a little. The Sam Darnold experiment is really interesting. I have him stashed on at least one bench, but there's a part of me that's just like, when is the real Sam Darnold going to show up? So we'll have to just see if he can keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one player to look out for, though, too, if you're looking for wide receiver, a lot of people dropped Addison. Addison is sitting on the waiver wires because he was hurt. There's a chance that he plays this week. Remember how great Addison was second half of last year. Don't sleep on him. If Darnold is this good, Addison and Jefferson, again, it's going to be a great tandem.
Yeah. Jim, what about Cam Akers? Are you dropping him?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. Last week I thought he was going to do well against Minnesota. But part of it is, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I was surprised. I was looking at the score and I was like, I can't believe they're losing to Minnesota. Minnesota's defense, I think, Tom, you might have texted it. Minnesota's defense is really good.
Really
right?
good.
Yeah, if you were looking for IDP players, they got some good players. And so I wonder, I mean, they just couldn't do anything. So the running game just stalled and they just started throwing. But Nico Collins, none of those receivers did well this week.
Oh, with team defenses, I am dropping, let's say, for instance, I had Dallas Cowboys in a couple of leagues. I dropped Dallas. I picked up Minnesota and New Orleans are the two defenses that I've been picking out. But the IDP players, the linebackers have been great for me.
The only thing about it. Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, this is like talking about our themes of which teams to be following. So Houston and Indianapolis were really hot in the preseason. They have not played as well, whereas we've seen Minnesota rising. The other team I'll talk about, even though they lost, is Atlanta. I think Atlanta has something going. Kirk Cousins is finally figuring out how to use his weapons there. He's looked good 2 games straight. Atlanta is a team that I think is going to be on the rise, particularly from a fantasy perspective. I think he'll be able to get some points there.
Yeah. Well, you see that Kirk Cousins is moving a little bit more. So, but going back to Cam Akers, I do think, though, I mean, I don't know if Joe Mixon is coming back, but they're playing Jacksonville this week. And I do think that that's a win for them because Jacksonville is just that bad.
Hey, speaking of the Kansas City Atlanta game as well, too. Robinson is usually pretty good. Drake London, Kyle Pitts is actually really doing okay. Not the best, but okay. But on the Kansas City side, Steele and Hunt. Both of them are probably on the waivers. Do you like any of those guys? 17 carries, 72 yards. Do you like any of those guys?
I
Nope.
like Steele. Really? I like Steele. I
Mm-mm.
think Steele.
No.
I mean,
I've just never been a fan of the Kansas City running back
mhm,
rotation. Like even with Pacheco back there, was not a fan.
mhm,
I will say I came around on Rasheed Rice. I think Rasheed Rice has been phenomenal this year. He's
yeah,
turning into the old Tyreek Hill of old. But no, not in the running back rotation. I don't know. I just never
yeah,
been
yeah.
interested. It feels like it's too inconsistent.
Jed, I have to say, I applaud you because you introduced Tommy and I to DraftKings, right? And I love DraftKings. And this week to win up for a parlay for bet parlay, I just needed Travis Kelsey to at least get 40 yards. He couldn't get 40 yards, and so I don't know what's going on with him, and I'm not sure why they're not throwing the deep ball more to Xavier Worthy. And so I still think that they're trying to figure out. But the only consistent player on that team thus far is Rasheed Rice. But that's one of the reasons why I like Steele is because I still think Steele, if you need a consistent 8 to maybe 10 points a game from your flex position, Steele is a pretty good pickup.
Oh, Jed, I was peeved. I could have won $119. All I needed was a total of 46 points between the group, 46.5. If they got one more touchdown, I was sitting there, 9 minutes left. Oh, they're going to get it. Someone's going to get a touchdown. Somebody's getting it. They didn't score a touchdown. They just got a field goal. I was so frustrated.
For
Nine
everyone out
minutes.
there, if you have not tried DraftKings, it is a lot of fun, but a disclaimer, it is gambling. You need to be careful. You need to have a set budget. I'm hoping that I did not introduce Tommy and Jimmy to a new addiction. But it is a lot of fun. And I think the big thing for me with DraftKings is it's really fun while you're watching. Like if you are
Yeah.
watching and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, I've got a feeling that. So, for example, I hit on when Kirk Cousins in Atlanta came back with that last touchdown. I just knew that was going to, in my mind, I was like, this is going to happen. And so you could make the bet that I think he's going to come back and score a touchdown here. And it's a lot of fun to do that while you're playing. But have a set budget, everybody. Do not
Yeah.
play DraftKings without a set budget.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about DraftKings later, especially for some of you guys who, like me, I didn't understand how some of the betting odds are, and so we'll talk about that as well too. Hey, I do want to look at New York Giants and Cleveland Browns. Look, we all know Malik Neighbors is special. He has become the primary receiving threat out of the New York Giants. But Jed, I'm going to go over to you. What's your
Take on
understanding or
Robinson.
prognosis on Daniel Jones and
Yeah.
Wan'Dale Robinson?
Yeah, Wendell Robinson, that's the guy. Daniel Jones, like again, just like Sam Darnold, I'm like, when is the real guy going to show? Like, what's going on? But Wendell Robinson, again, if you're desperate for wide receiver, it's so interesting. You guys remember in the preseason we talked about how wide receiver position was so strong and running back position was weak. We felt like you're going to need to get a running back early. Whereas what's really happened is because of injuries, the wide receiver position is really weak, and because there's so many backup running backs that are playing well, the running back position is strong. So I do think you have to go a little deeper. And I think Robinson on New York, because he gets so many catches. So he gets like between 6 and 8 catches a game, particularly if you're in a PPR league. The problem is he's running all the underneath routes. So it's harder for him to get touchdowns. But if you're just desperate and you need, let's say, 8 points a game, maybe 10 points a game, you can definitely look at Robinson in New York.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, Chargers against Pittsburgh as well too. Herbert is injured. There's no one you're playing besides J.K. Dobbins on the Chargers side. But on the Pittsburgh Steelers side, Najee Harris is okay. Warren is non-existent. And Pickens, okay.
Mhm.
Nothing to write home about as well too. Thoughts on those two teams?
Well, I mean, I think Warren is injured, or most likely may not play, right? And so Cordell Patterson is going to end up being the backup. So that's one of the reasons why actually Najee Harris is really interesting to me because there's nobody else that they're going to be running the ball. The person that I've actually been paying attention to is not necessarily George Pickens, but Calvin Austin, the second wide receiver. He actually might be somebody that you might want to pay attention to on the waiver wire because my guess is Justin Fields is going to end up being the starting quarterback for the rest of the year, and I think they're going to be done with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Jed, I'm going to go over to San Francisco, LA Rams side, mostly talk about Rams. There is no wide receiver sitting there. Kyron Williams did pretty well, but at the same time, the wide receiver that emerged is Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
Do you like a Tutu Atwell if you're desperate for a wide receiver?
No, not more than Robinson, like you talked about, mainly because they're just, they're focused on the run. They found something with Kyron Williams. I think that was a good pickup. And really, you're just waiting for Puko or Coop to come back. And so, no, not at this point. I mean, if you're desperate for a plug-in, a weekly plug-in, that might be something to look at, but you're not going to get more than 1 or 2 games out of them before the players come back.
And remember, they're playing the Bears this week, too.
Oh, that's right. They're in Chicago. LA is
they're playing the Bears
in Chicago.
this week. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Bears defense, though, you guys have to say the Bears defense has been holding us up. I mean, we've been keeping players under 20, teams under 20 points a game, and so it's still a pretty strong defense.
Yeah. I hope this week the Bears zero in on Kyron Williams. Do not let Kyron Williams beat you, right? Like, I'd much rather have the receivers beat me, but don't let Kyron Williams beat you, because that's what San Francisco did last week. They allowed some big plays, and Kyron Williams just ran all over those guys.
Yeah. Hey, last game that I want to look at, Jim. Cincinnati Bengals against the Commanders, specifically looking at the Cincinnati Bengals. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, Zach Moss, 12 carries. Then you have Brown, 7 carries. Do you like any of those guys? And it also looks like Chase is back, the connection between Burrow and Chase. I've been seeing a lot of Joe Burrow sitting on the waiver. Yeah. Talk to me about the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, I like it. T. Higgins is coming back. They got that third receiver who's pretty good. Chase, they got some 2 big plays, 2 touchdowns from Chase. I like Burrows. I mean, if he's sitting out there and even if you need a good backup quarterback for like a Richardson, if you have a Richardson on there, or Love, I would pick him up as well too. And I like Zach Moss. I wish Chase Brown, I picked him up early on and I kind of dumped him, but Chase Brown, I think, still has some good potential.
Yeah, what league are you in that they dropped Joe Burrow? Like, there should be no league that Joe Burrow was dropped. He definitely should be picked up. He should be playing. He's going to be a top 10, even if the Bengals in real life are not playing well. I can't believe that they lost. I can't believe they're 0-3. It's really an unbelievable start. Again, kudos to Washington playing a big game in Cincinnati, but I still think Cincinnati has too much talent, too much firepower that you're going to be able to get points. And yes, if you waited on Jamar Chase, 2 touchdowns, that's great.
Yeah. And T. Higgins is coming back, right? And so it'll take him a couple of games to get acclimated, but I'm hoping that a T. Higgins will really help them out as well.
Yeah, he had a touchdown call back because of a penalty. So yeah, Higgins is definitely another good pickup potentially if he's sitting on the waivers.
Jed, in one of my leagues, I had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I've been losing a lot, but I am so glad Jamar Chase is back. So glad. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, talk to me a little bit, Jed. One last one. I did want to get your thought. Travis Etienne. Are you benching Travis Etienne?
Well, you guys know I had a parlay, so we share our picks with each. That's what we did, is we shared our picks with each other, and I had this 4-team parlay that needed Travis Etienne to score a touchdown. I thought for sure he would get just something, even in garbage time. And no, I think again Jacksonville, they're a team that I'm ready to bail on, and Etienne is one of the few players on that team that I have. Very disappointing. I'm stashing him on the bench. I'm not dropping him, but I'm not starting him in any leagues, for this week, but definitely disappointing.
Got it. And then also, what do you guys think about Jerry Jones coming out and say, hey, we didn't pick up Derrick Henry because we had no money. He cost too much.
No, because they were criticizing him all over ESPN because of that. They were like, can you imagine if today Derrick Henry was on Dallas Cowboys instead of Ezekiel Elliott? They would be so good, even when they were coming back that last week against Baltimore. I mean, those guys, their offense is actually not bad. They just need a good running back.
Look, they went and signed Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is sitting there. And Dalvin is terrible. It's just terrible. It's just a terrible Dallas team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that that's true. I like Henry, but he's playing on a good team behind a decent line. Dallas, I don't know what is going on in Dallas. I'm definitely I've got Dak Prescott in a couple leagues, starting him, and I do think it'll be fine. CeeDee Lamb, things will work out, but definitely disappointed in Dallas.
My thought is they're going to go out and fire Mike McCartney and hire Bill Belichick.
Hey, that might be.
Bill Belichick.
Well, I mean, think about it. It is the end of his. He's on the last year of his contract. They didn't renew him. I think they're ready to make a change.
Yeah. Jed, let me ask you a quick question. For those who are sitting here listening, they heard about DraftKings and all that other stuff. Give people a basic beginner's guide for drafting, looking at numbers like negative, plus, all of those things.
Yeah, so we were talking about this when you look. So if you do DraftKings, they have a great deal where you get like I think it's 200 credits for your first bet, and then all those credits are essentially free bets for you, which is a great way to play. Also, they do a lot of promotions, and always look at the promotions because you get, for example, they call it a no sweat bet. So you make a bet, and even if you lose, you get the money back as a credit. Those promotions are important because it helps you tilt the odds in your favor. Basically, you're trying to get some of those odds back. The basic odds between any teams is it's going to say minus a number or it's going to say plus a number. And the number is usually going to be in the hundreds. It's all relative to how do you make $100 back. Like that's how you think about it. So if it's like negative 110, for example, they're saying you got to bet 110 to make 100. Like that's how you think about the negative 110. And so it's a little weird. It's basically saying if it's a negative number, basically what DraftKings is saying is we think that that's going to hit. And so we're not going to pay you very much. Like if you bet on it, you're not going to make very much money. On the other hand, if it's a plus number, they're saying, hey, the odds of this happening are low. So we want to encourage you to bet. So let's say it's a plus 750. If you bet $10, you're going to get, 100, you're going to get that times 750. So you're going to get a multiple up. And so they're trying to encourage you to say, hey, bet more here because we think you're going to get a big payout. But again, the odds of winning that are a lot lower. So the thing I told Tommy and Jimmy is generally you don't want to be too greedy. You want to try to make like anywhere from 2 times your bet to like 4 times your bet. And if you look at the parlays, I like the 3 and the 14 parlays. If you go past 4 times trying to win your money back, you're basically buying a lottery ticket, which personally, like that's not the way I like to play because I want to win.
Well, Jed, let me ask you a quick question. For instance, like a 3-pick parlay is pretty good. What is a 3-pick parlay?
Yeah, so a 3-pick parlay is you're saying 3 different things that you are predicting are going to happen, and they all have to hit. So, for example, Tommy was saying like, oh, I need it, or Jimmy was saying, I need Travis Kelce. So you predict Travis Kelce is going to get this many yards. This person's going to score a TD, and this team is going to win. So your parlay is all 3 have to happen for you to win that bet. And so you get the odds for each of those bets. And basically, if you do a 3-team or a 3-pick parlay, it's roughly times 6. So if you bet $10, you'll get like $60 back. Mm-hmm. If you do a 4-team or a 4-pick parlay, it's times 10. So you'll get 10 times back. So that's where it's getting a little dicey to me because 4 is hard, but 3, you can hit 3 a decent amount.
Look, I did a 5-pick parlay the other day against the Commanders and the Bengals.
Yeah.
And it was Joe Burrow, 250 passing yards, got it. Jamar Chase, 90 plus, got it. Joe Burrow passing touchdown, 3, dot. Jamar Chase, anytime TD, got it. Cincinnati Bengals money line. I thought Cincinnati was going to beat Washington. I lost my money.
See, that's the thing. But that's what's crazy about football. Like everyone would have thought Cincinnati was going to beat Washington. They had they were 0-2. They got to win. And it didn't happen. And so that's why, but DraftKings and the odds makers, they all know that.
Jed and Tom, let me tell you what I was doing yesterday. I was betting on DraftKings on the Los Angeles Angels versus Chicago White Sox. And I bet that the Angels will win. And those stupid White Sox scored in the last couple innings and won the game. And I was so mad.
Yeah. You got to be careful again, guys. Set your limits. And the other thing you'll notice in DraftKings, a lot of the promotions, it's a max bet of $10. And so again, I think that's great because it's encouraging you. Don't throw crazy money out there. Put $5 down, $10 down. Again, make it something you can afford. I always remember Charles Barkley's statement. When people said, "Do you have a gambling problem?" And he said, "No, because I can afford it." And I think that's really true. Like if you budget correctly, you don't have a gambling problem because you're staying within your budget.
And if you go on the DraftKings app, go all the way to the right side, you'll see rewards. And so we'll click on that as well too.
Yeah, that's where the promotions live. And they have it's every week. Every week there'll be a promotion. So for example, the Thursday night game, they'll try to encourage you to bet on the Thursday night game, either with what's called a profit boost. So they give you more money for your win, or with my favorite is the no sweat bet, because the no sweat bet means even if you lose, you get that money back and you get to use it as a credit again, which is a really good thing.
So can we talk a little bit about the props for this coming week for the Thursday night game? I think Malik Neighbors will score a touchdown. Right? I think that's a pretty good bet that you can make.
Dallas at New York. So this is Cowboys at the Giants. That's not a bad bet.
Dak Prescott will will throw a touchdown or score a touchdown. I think that's a good one, right? And I also have the Dallas Cowboys doing a sack. I think those are three pretty sure bets that you can see. So.
Yeah, I mean the way I like to think about it is when you have a game. So let's say Dallas and New York, you need to think of what is the storyline. So for example, I think Dallas is going to kill New York. Okay, so if you believe that, now you bet accordingly. Like, okay, Dallas is going to score. They're going to get, just like you said, Jimmy, whatever it is. But don't bet against each other. Like, don't have a bet that's like, oh, I think this person's going to do well, and then the defense is going to do well, because those are in contradiction to each other. So you got to think of what you think is going to happen, and then just bet accordingly.
Versus my argument for you is I think New York with Malik Neighbors with the big showing on TV, they're going to kill Dallas.
Wow.
And they're just going to run all over Dallas. And Dallas is going to be so embarrassed.
I don't know if I trust Dana. I mean, I trust Malik Neighbors. I don't think I trust Dana Jones that much.
Yeah. And Dallas is a 5.5 point favorite. And so again, just so you guys know, if we say a team is a 3 point favorite, that is the baseline. The home team is a 3 point favorite. That's the baseline. So anything that changes from there tells you how much the odds makers think that team is going to win. So the fact that Dallas, being the visiting team, is a 5.5 point favorite, that's a pretty strong bet that the odds makers are saying Dallas is going to win.
Yeah.
I do find a lot of times the ones that I struggle with is next TD scores or all of that. It's anytime. I do like the anytime TDs. I find those are a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. Sure. I think the anytime TD is versus like scoring first. I don't like the timing ones. Anything that's based on timing, it's too hard to predict.
Except, do you guys focus on, like, let's just say that a series is going on and you're going to bet whether or not they're going to score a touchdown or at least score points? I like those. I think those are fun.
I like those if it's in response to one. So, for example, if one team has just scored, I do think the other team, there's extra motivation to respond, right? And to also score. Those are fun, but they're dangerous. Like when you're starting to try to predict what's going to happen in this series, it's really hard.
I do think this week, though, just going back to the games, I do think that Dallas has more pressure to win this week because of Jerry Jones than New York. And so I do think going into New York, they're going to have a better showing than they did last week against the Baltimore, especially in the first half.
Yeah. Hey, a couple of news and notes for you guys to take a look at. I'd love for you to comment on either one of those. Kareem Hunt joins the active roster. Adam Thielen lands on the IR. Tua is meeting with neurologists this week. Russell Wilson, unlikely to start with the calf injury. Justin Fields will be heading in their start. Jordan Addison will probably be playing in week 4. Thoughts on any of those things?
Jed, I'm looking at Jordan Addison since you said that. I actually think, now that I need a couple of good wide receivers, he might be a good pickup, to be able to.
Addison's sitting on waivers in both of our keepers. It's a good pick. I just don't have room on my bench. That's why I didn't pick him up. So Addison is a great pickup. I think it would be great to see how he plays this week.
Yeah. Any other thoughts as we wrap up here?
No, good luck. It's already week 4. It's crazy.
Man, it goes by fast, right?
Yeah.
Most think about it. Most of these leagues are done by week 14. That's 10 more games. Like that. We're almost like a third of the way there. I love football. Football is just so good.
We need to have another. We'll have someone on from our $1,000 league, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get past the quarter mark. But we're getting closer. We'll see, and hopefully, again, one of us has to win. Otherwise, I think we have to quit this podcast.
It's not me. I'm sitting there with all my injuries, sitting there in last place right now.
Yeah. No, you're doing your strategy of coming back at the very end. Come on.
Okay. Hey, I got one more. Go ahead.
The only problem with our big league is there's so many players and such a huge bench. Nobody's trading.
Yeah. Hey, I got one more thing, guys. Okay, so this week we got 2 Monday Night Football games again. Titans versus Dolphins, Seahawks versus Lions. Do you like these two? Actually, there was an article that says ABC and ESPN is exploring going forward with 2 Monday Night Football games, ABC and an ESPN going forward. Do you guys like it?
As long as they stagger the times, it's fine with me, because then you kind of have a better game. You follow the game that's closer to the end. But yeah, I liked it. I like being able to switch back and forth. It helps if like one of the games is a snooze fest, right? Like if one of the games is bad, you've got another one to switch to. Sometimes if it's the Thursday night game and that's the only game, it stinks if it's a bad game.
Yeah. I do like the fact that they moved it a little bit longer, and so I do like to watch both games and to have the entire night watching both games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I like it. So okay.
All right, see you later. Bye.
Talk to you later.
See you, everyone.
Bye.